I'm so connected to an ultimate purpose for my work. Like, I never have to question, like, when I come into work, like, is what I'm doing meaningful? Like, it is. Even if, and I say that to say, it's not because I'm doing it or anything like that, but anything we're doing here, whether it's super small, like a minute task, or something that's more important, like I'm like reaching people for Jesus. I may not directly be that. I'm not the one on stage. I'm not the one leading someone in worship, but I get to be a part of that process. So to me, like, that is why I work here. That's why I work here over somewhere else. Like, it would definitely be that. Hey, my name is Randi Rose Jackson, and I am the creative director at Rock Springs Church. And that basically just means I either do or oversee a lot of the graphics and photography here, which can range from stuff like branding a project to creating print materials, social media graphics, photographing an event, editing photos from an event. It can be a lot of different things. I got into graphic design because I was honestly really nerdy and homeschooled, and I used to be on the computer a ton, and I just found a free program that did graphic design and kind of started watching tutorials and other stuff like that and just learned from there. Because I think God designs us all in a certain way and hands us to things in a different way too. I'm not a very decisive person, so I wasn't like born like with like a plan of like, hey, I want to do this. And I think a lot of things God has handed to me, if that makes sense, because he knows I'm not going to be the type to be like, I decided that I want to move across the country and do specifically this. And when I was growing up, I of course had like a few different jobs. Like at one point, I remember I wanted to be an astronaut or like other crazy stuff, but I never was like had a specific life plan. And I think it's interesting too, because I didn't grow up in church. Like I didn't even know people worked at a church. Like I would, before I started coming here, like a creative director at a church, I would have never even thought that's a thing. But I think God really put Rock Springs in my lap because of that, if that makes sense. I started going to Rock Springs when I was 14. I just moved up to 8th grade, and so I started coming to the youth group. Before that, my family didn't go to church. We were Christians, but my family had just never really like attended a church regularly. So I started interning with the youth pastors when I was like 16, and so I honestly started getting connected into the job side of church through that. So I used to help with the youth group when I was in high school. And then they kind of figured out I had a little bit of a background in graphic design, so I started doing graphic design for the youth group. And then it just so happened around the time I was graduating, they really needed someone to be hired on to help with the current graphic designer at the church. And so it all just kind of fell into place, if that makes sense. The relationships I've developed through the church have like been so good for me, and also, like I said before, like show me what it looks like to be lived out as a Christian. It's just so warm and inviting, like, and that's why I'd say that truly, because I came here not as a staff member, like as a student, like, and I was welcomed with open arms.
I'm not asking her what she wants for dinner. What would you like for dinner, Taco Bell or Moe's?
You have to create thick skin to work in ministry. And ministry is just hard, and I don't say that as a bad thing. Like, it's a good thing that ministry is hard, but it is, like, because you're dealing, I mean, this is the reverse side of the answer I just gave. You're dealing with people's, like, souls. So it's a heavy burden to bear. And that's not to say, like, I can't save anybody. Like, I'm not here to save anybody. That's Jesus' job. But it's still, like, I mean, the Bible says, like, those who called into ministry have a lot to answer for. So to me, just, like, carrying that burden well and carrying it with a good attitude can be very difficult sometimes. It's a great thing too. That's what I say. I mean, that's the best part of ministry too, is because you're getting to reach people, but also on the reverse side of that, it can be very difficult sometimes.